Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Formula One podcast. This week we're talking about the Japanese Grand Prix, which is round, counts on fingers, three.
Yeah, three.
I'm the father and the Father and Son title, Graham Miller, and here's my son Toby.
Hello.
That's all the intro over. Yeah, we were just talking before we hit record that I managed to catch a lot of the free practices because they re-showed them at a sensible hour. Because, as we've said on previous weeks, we're not getting up at like 3 or 4 in the morning for free practice one.
Yeah, no.
Apparently, and there's probably a backstory here, Toto Wolff has stopped flying out to some of the more far-flung races. He wasn't in Japan at all.
I think he hasn't. In the past, he's done that. If that makes sense, he's missed the Japanese Grand Prix previously, if I recall.
But apparently he didn't wake up in the middle of the night and sit there on a Zoom call for free practice one. Which I find a bit kind of odd, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean, what benefit does he really provide during a practice session himself?
But if you're going to ask that, then your obvious next question is, what benefit is he providing kind of full stop, you know?
Well, he can do... He's a manager, is what he is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they'll come to him and say, this is what happened. And he'll go, that's good or bad.
There aren't any, I suppose he's got engineers and delegates to kind of work out the technical stuff and everything.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get my head around this.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but my brain is gone. The overtaking zone. What do they call the button that you press? DRS. That's it. The DRS zone is up the start-finish straight.
Yes.
But because you can go off the start-finish straight into the first corner absolutely flat, there's no way for the cars to detect that they're out of DRS. Because normally you lift off and hit the brakes and the DRS snaps shut.
Yeah.
On the braking zone for the next corner. But in Japan, they manually have to hit the braking zone, flick the DRS shut, and throw it into the corner.
Yes.
Apart from Jack Doohan.
Well, yeah.
Apparently, there are some comments that maybe the simulator just kind of automatically shuts the DRS for you.
Yeah, he said he didn't shut it on the simulator. Which is weird. It's weird for a few reasons. The first one I thought was, the DRS knows when you're in the DRS zone. Presumably, if you push that button on another straight, it does nothing. So why can't it just shut by itself?
Yeah.
If it knows when it's just out of the zone, then how come they can't just on other tracks? I mean, if he had kept the DRS open and got through the first corner, would he have been breaking the rules? Because he had the DRS open without not in the zone.
Well, knowing the way that they run the rules with, like, leaving the track and stuff, I would imagine that if the detection point, you were, like, a metre beyond it with the DRS open, they'd probably delete the lap or something.
But again, if the car knows whether or not it's in the DRS zone, it should be fairly straightforward to implement a little bit of software. I mean, this is probably an FIA mandated thing, it would have to be, just to shut it at the end, to save the driver, what happened to Doohan.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate the GPS systems inside the cars are. I don't know how accurately a given car knows exactly where it is down to the last metre on the track.
Well, again, it must be a certain amount, because they literally already have the kind of the ability to detect where the DRS zone is. That's kind of my point, is that capability is in the car. Why don't you just reverse engineer it a little bit?
Yeah.
There probably is some technical reason that I don't know, because I'm not an F1 mechanic, but...
Do you think it's maybe like, and I know this is a ridiculous analogy, like supermarket trolleys when they go over the thing and they stop working? I think there's maybe something in the track where if you go over a thing, it enables DRS and then it goes over.
Now that you mention it, I don't actually know how DRS works.
I've just got my search engine up and typed in how DRS works in F1.
Yes, I'm looking up.
So yeah, anyway, that
thing.
was a massive crash. It was
It was really quite extreme.
It was like over 100 miles an hour into a corner, so he just spun and went straight into the barriers. There was carbon fibre and just wreckage everywhere. There were 4 red flags in FP1. 2 of them were grass fires on the side of the track, because the titanium skid plates blow up, sparks, and there's a crosswind and dry grass. And they tried through all the practice sessions to damp it down, and it didn't affect qualifying or the race, which was quite lucky.
Yeah.
And of all the drivers, Alonso lost it and spun out.
Yeah.
And reached it and caused the 4th red flag, which, out of anybody...
Although I will say, Alonso's had a pretty bad start to this season.
Yeah, he hasn't really been on it.
I do wonder if
allows
he's...
the flap to lift a maximum of 85mm from the fixed main plane. The effectiveness will vary. Right, rules on use.
Yeah, I've seen something. The DRS using an actuator. The critical 1 second gap between cars is measured at a detection point. Electronic timing loops in the track surface measure the distance between 2 cars. If the following car is less than 1 second behind, a signal is sent to the car, allowing DRS to open. So there is communication between the track location and the car.
But that's only
at the detection
when
zone.
they go over the timing points on the track, which we've already got for sector times.
Is it? Or is it the... No, that's the detection zone that happens.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the DRS detection... No, I can see the detection zone is not on a sector border.
Oh, okay.
So my point is, obviously, they couldn't do it for this race, but maybe in future just an extra loop at the end of the detection zone just to send a signal to shut it?
Not in future.
Why not? Are they going to get rid of it?
DRS is set to be made obsolete in the 2026 season, being replaced with active aerodynamics.
Are they... What? They're getting rid of DRS and replacing it with just actually active aero next year?
Yep.
Oh my god, okay.
I mean...
Well, that's one solution. Just get rid of DRS. It was always supposed to be a temporary fix, if I recall.
Yeah, it's always been a bit of a kind of unsporting thing in a weird way to...
Yeah, well, it's basically a plaster over the problem that they couldn't follow each other.
Yeah, and to be honest, they still can't really follow each other anyway.
They could. There was like 2022 and 3, under the new regs, we had quite a lot of races with really good close battles. Now that the gaps have tightened and all the aeros got more complicated, I think it's gone back to what it was, which is what we saw at the end of this race, not to skip ahead too much, but following is just impossible now.
Yeah, and you get this kind of weird effect where if somebody's following, they'll attack for 2 or 3 laps, and then they'll back off to not only cool down their tyres, but recharge their batteries, literally.
Yeah.
So you get that kind of yo-yoing where somebody will be all over whatever car they're following's gearbox. But then a couple of laps later, they'll be like 3 seconds back just to let everything cool down. It's quite...
Yeah, that's exactly what we saw at the end of the race.
Anyway, yeah, so Jack Doohan had a massive off in FP1.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much to write home about the other 2 free practice sessions, to be honest.
Well, FP2 was the interrupted one, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was... Hadjar was in P3 and Lawson in P5.
Actually, yeah, to be honest, Hadjar did really well all weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll talk more about it later, but I think all the rookies this year, maybe except for Liam, have actually done a really good job so far. They've all impressed in one way or another.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Antonelli is actually quietly living up to the hype, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, have you heard the kind of... This is almost like the Wagatha Christie thing with the footballers.
Oh, God. The gossip side of things.
A Dutch Formula 1 driver, Guido van der Gaard, is a friend of the Verstappen family.
Of course he is. He's probably the only other Dutch F1 driver ever.
Well, yeah. And he made a comment on social media that Red Bull's decision to demote Liam Lawson was a panic move and was close to bullying.
I saw that, yeah.
And then Max liked the comment.
Quite a few drivers did, actually, I think.
But, well, Max being obviously in the team is...
But then, I saw that. They interviewed Max, and he basically said, yeah, I like what I like on social media. What I like is, the truth. That's how it is.
Well, I actually got the quote up here.
Yeah.
I like the comment, the text, so I guess that speaks for itself, right? Everything has been shared with the team, how I think about everything. Sometimes it's not necessary, to always share and say everything in public. I think it's better not to.
Yeah.
So, because quite often I see these kind of social media storms back when everybody was using Twitter, and I think, people can just like a post by mistake, or their social media team can like something, then it turns out the person who posted it has been cancelled, and it all kind of blows up. But in this case, I think Max was actually sending a message.
Yeah, not only to Liam, because, I've said before, Max has always been supportive about his teammates, but also to the team, saying, you didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
The car needs to be fixed. It's not Liam's fault.
And also, it's not enough time.
No.
I kind of get what Christian Horner said, that he wanted to stop the downward spiral with Liam Lawson. But surely there's better ways to kind of support him.
Yeah.
Rather than just getting him out of the situation altogether. Surely you can stop the spiral by kind of saying...
It's almost like admitting that their own team is too toxic for him.
Yeah.
They've said the best thing for Liam now is for him not to be in this car. It's like, well, that says more about the car and the team than it does about Liam, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you were right. That big off was actually an FP2. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because Hirakawa, I think... drove Liam Lawson's car. No, I'm talking about him now. Hirakawa drove Jack Doohan's car in FP1.
Right.
And then Jack Doohan massively stacked it quite early on in FP2.
I see. That was the first red flag of 4.
I think it was, yeah. And then, obviously,
right.
You've got Doohan had, 0 practice. Yeah, I've actually seen the red flag thing on the video, and it says 50 minutes 10 remaining. So he stacked it. So
10
basically,
minutes in.
Out of 2 hours of pre-practice, Doohan got 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes.
3 laps.
Yeah.
Maybe not even a flying lap. He did do...
He was flying, just sideways.
Well, yeah. He did do all of FP3, though, so he got something in.
Yeah, but that's really quite...
Yes, puts him on the back foot, as they say.
Yeah. Qualifying.
Yes. I woke up for qualifying.
Yeah, I got up for qualifying. You know what occurred to me, and this, again, we're kind of hopping about a bit.
Yeah.
I think Sainz missed his Weetabix.
Where was Sainz?
Well, he got a 3-place grid drop for blocking Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And they showed it. And it was just absolutely cut and dried.
Yeah, I saw it actually live, because it was there's where Sainz finishes, pans over to him at the first corner, and then there's Hamilton having to back out of his flying lap.
Yeah.
Because Sainz was just, directly in the way.
Yeah, slow on the racing line.
Yeah, it was a slam dunk, really, because his time was up. Did he get into... qualifying, he was 12th. Starting grid, he was 15th.
Yeah,
yeah, that's confusing.
The thing is...
Yeah.
He was quite lucky because Lewis still got through to Q3.
Yeah. I don't know what would have happened if he didn't.
He would have still got the 3-place grid drop, but it's just one of those things that's unfortunate. A lot of Formula 1 is luck. If Lewis had been in 11th and been on a flying lap, that would have put him into top 10. And he'd come across Sainz, or it had been red flagged or yellow flagged. It's just...
Yeah.
it's one of those things you just shrug and go, that's
Well,
what happened.
we've seen that a lot with like yellow flags at the end of a session or red flags with like 2 minutes left.
And to be honest, I think with the current season lengths and longevity of drivers, if you're putting in 200, 300, 400 race seat careers, I think you just have to shrug and go, it balances out.
Yeah.
Some days I'll be the statue, some days I'll be the bird, it's...
But at the other times, you think someone like Hamilton, he's got to be so driven
Yeah.
that he's also got to think, even if it's just one mistake, it's a failure. And I've got to figure out why that happened.
Mm.
And every time something bad happened at Mercedes, he wouldn't be like angry or swearing. He'd be like, what happened there?
Oh, what was that driver we were talking about at the beginning? Arnblad or something.
Lindblad?
Lindblad.
Arvid Lindblad. He's a Red Bull junior, right?
I think
Don't know
so,
much
but
about
he's being accelerated through. But basically, that was his attitude. That's what they said. More than his raw natural speed, it was the fact that if he wasn't up to speed, he didn't blame anybody or say, the car wasn't behaving or the turn-in wasn't there. He'd be like, what do we learn from this?
Right, yeah.
And I think that's what really attracted him to a lot of teams, was that he just had that kind of, well, what can we learn?
Yes.
Yeah, and then here's a weird thing I saw. It was on a clickbaity article, but I've got a feeling it's true.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen put in basically god-level lap to a steel pole.
Yeah. Especially since Yuki was only 12th. He was out in Q2.
Yeah. But apparently there were no purple sectors in that lap. And I think what happened is, I'm going to do a quick... I think the top three I heard were 43 thousandths of a second apart.
Yeah. More or less.
So the purple sectors were split between Norris and Piastri. But in the sectors they didn't purple,
They lost too much to Max.
they lost
each
1
of
or
them.
2 tenths in making a mistake.
Yeah.
And what Max said was he just sent it. He said, thought I was just going to send it. And he thought he was going to go off most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, he was actually very happy with it, if you hear him. Like, more so than he normally is, I'd say.
Yeah, I've just done the calculation. There were 44 thousandths of a second between first and third.
Yeah.
So, and it was like 12 thousandths ahead of Norris, which is just...
It's so tight, those three. I think that might be the story of the season.
Yeah, I mean, when somebody like Alonso comes on and says that was a mega lap,
Yeah.
and he's in a different team, and
I
he's
think
got
everybody said that. They were like, that was insane.
It's kind of like Hamilton in Singapore 18, isn't it? It's like,
Oh, yeah, that... Where he broke the computer simulation.
yeah, I mean, GP was straight on and just said, that's insane.
Yeah. I'm looking at Max's times, right?
Yeah.
27.5 in Q2, 26.9.
Yeah.
So he was adrift of both Norris around Piastri Leclerc level, but then he gained 5 tenths, whereas Norris gained 2 tenths. And Hamilton did exactly the same time from Q2 to Q3 to the 1,000th.
Yeah.
That's just the capacity of the Ferrari.
They had Jack Villeneuve on doing commentary with them all weekend.
Yeah.
And Jack Villeneuve said the really massive strength that Verstappen has is that he's always developing. You never look at his pre-practice times because he's always looking, he's always trying stuff, he's always trying to get better.
He's always finding time somewhere.
But you look at Q1, he was 27.9.
Yeah.
Q2, he was 27.5.
Half a tenth every session, pretty much.
So he's gaining
Half a second
from each session.
I mean, Norris gained 7 tenths, but then 2 tenths.
Yeah.
And then Piastri gained 1 tenth and then 5. Leclerc only gained 7 tenths across the whole session.
Yeah.
Even looking at Russell, only gained half a second. Like,
Yeah,
nobody
like
else
so.
gained as much as he did, I don't think.
And as consistently, just like, how can I get better and better and better?
Well, there is a reason he's the champion.
Yeah, and
I think you could say he stole 21, whatever. 2022 and 2023, he had the best car. I think last year was when even people like us who are, let's be honest, British and big fans of Hamilton have to kind of stand up and say, actually, he is a damn good driver across a whole season.
Actually, you know what?
He's up there.
I read another take on 2021 that really got me thinking. If the authorities hadn't made an absolute mess of Spa,
Yeah.
if Lewis Hamilton hadn't accidentally pressed the magic button in Baku,
Yeah.
then Abu Dhabi would not have mattered.
Yeah.
It wasn't, Lewis was dominant all season and he got it stolen at Abu Dhabi.
I mean, that season, every single race, it was those two.
Yeah.
It
And there were
was.
things like the Silverstone crash where you could have gone either way with whose fault it was.
Well, and the Italy crash.
Yeah.
And when Verstappen forced him wide at Imola.
Yeah.
And there was, like you say, the magic button at Baku, but what if Max hadn't had his tyre fail at Baku?
Yeah.
It's basically endless permutations of the whole championship.
So I think it's not really fair to look at Abu Dhabi and go, oh, Max stole it. I mean, you think about it bizarrely, if Lewis had moved his thumb like half an inch and pressed a button,
He'd be champion.
yeah, which is just kind of like, how do you deal with that?
Well, it's a kind of, like, you can kind of get a bit lost in it.
Yeah,
Because you could think back, what if Hamilton had not crashed into Rosberg in 2016 and got past him? He'd be a 8-time champion going into 2021.
or if he hadn't stuffed up the entry to the pits in China in 07?
Yeah, he could be a
I mean,
9-time champion. And then a 10-time champion now. There's like,
And I mean, ultimately, that's what makes a champion, is the fact that they can just get it absolutely perfect more of the time than anybody else.
what I saw, people around that time, they said at the end of 2021, Hamilton deserved to win that race. That race win got taken away from him by Michael Massey,
Yeah,
but Verstappen deserved to win the championship
yeah,
because he was probably the better driver. And also, it was fun to see such an insanely tight title battle between two actually top level, like Senna-Prost level drivers
yeah. and I
in
mean,
two different teams.
That final 4 races from Brazil onwards was a masterclass in racing.
I mean, both of them finished 1 and 2 in the last 6 races of the season.
Yeah,
Probably, I think, half the season, the entire year, was those two.
yeah. But I mean, you know, even with our British bias, Max is an amazing driver.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, he's not like, he's got God-given talent and he just half-asses it and turns up. It's like,
He's got God-given talent, but he also puts in the work.
yeah, and he's always looking to improve, and that's what he did at the weekend.
Hey, do you want to know something utterly useless?
What?
The top 5 in the championship in
Yeah.
2021, they all had driver numbers that were the double digits of the same number.
Oh, wow.
Because Max was 33, then Ham 44, Bottas 77, Perez 11, and then Sainz 55.
Wow.
And then it's Norris P6 who breaks it.
Oh, well. That's a really useless fact.
That's impressively useless even for me.
So, the race was really bizarre. For one thing,
Yeah.
after the first lap, the top 10 were completely unchanged.
Yes.
I mean, it's a classic racetrack, lots of high-speed corners, absolutely drivers love the track.
Yeah.
And they all just slotted in at the first corner, line astern, and went through 1 through 10. Oh, hat tip to Ollie Behrman for getting the Haas into 10th, by the way.
Oh, what, in qualifying? Yeah, like I said, all the attention has been on Lawson, Sonoda at the moment. I
Yeah.
think Behrman, Antonelli are being actually, and Hadjar, they're all really good. They're all
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the new
even
kind of
Be-
generation.
Behrman out-qualified Esteban Ocon by 8 places on his third outing.
Yeah, Q3 in a Haas.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not being funny, but you expect Antonelli in a Mercedes to be fast.
yeah, I will say what's impressive about Antonelli is how quickly he's acclimatized.
Well, we said that last week about the thousands of miles of testing previous cars.
Yeah, but literally first race he was with George. He's never like smashed him,
No.
but he's like the perfect number 2 basically. He's like filling in the Bottas/Barrichello role.
And don't forget, for all his preparation and the fact he's known to the team and he's Toto's protege,
Yeah.
he's never actually... This is his first 3 race weekends in a Formula 1.
Yeah.
He's not like Behrman or Lawson or even a Doohan who kind of...
They got
semi-rookies.
weekends. Yeah. They got races. Antonelli had one free practice session where he binned it.
Yeah.
It took him like 1 lap to get his eye in, basically, and he thought, yep, there's the limit.
Also,
Yes.
he's doing his equivalent of A-levels at the moment.
Yeah, I've actually seen videos of him at school. And everyone's going, look, it's a Formula 1 driver. And he's like, please leave me alone.
It's just bizarre.
Well, Arvid Lindblad
Yeah.
is 17. Which makes it more surprising that he's so mature and kind of,
Yeah.
like you said.
Right.
One more thing about Antonelli. Sorry.
Yeah.
He is the youngest driver to achieve a fastest lap in Formula 1. He's also the first driver to get points in his first 3 races since... Can you guess?
Hamilton?
Yeah.
Also,
Which is surprising to me, but yeah.
next time out in Bahrain, he will be older than Verstappen was in his first race, and I think his first win as well.
His first win, yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the record for the youngest driver to set fastest lap and to lead a lap.
Oh yeah, because he led. Yeah.
He led in the pit stops.
For quite a while, actually.
Yeah. I mean, he's actually, again, it's a bit dull, but his tyre management was excellent. He was up there with... Well, in the race, Lewis Hamilton started on hard tyres in 8th.
Yes.
And everybody else around him, bar a couple of at the back who started on softs, were starting the race on mediums.
Yeah.
So obviously the Ferrari strategy was to let Lewis run long and try and undercut people.
Yep.
I mean, the race was a really odd race. I mean, for one thing, it was a masterclass by Max because I don't think in all 57 laps he was ever more than 3 seconds ahead of Lando Norris.
Apart from pit stops.
Apart from pit stops.
Actually, no, they pitted together, didn't they?
Yeah.
There was that moment they had when they pitted and...
Came out of the pits together and...
Well, what happened is that Red Bull did a 3-second stop and McLaren did a 2-second stop.
Yeah, and it made up the time.
And reasonably enough, Norris probably thought that could have been my only chance to get past him.
Yeah, but Norris was trying it on because if you watch it, all Max had to do was keep straight and keep between the lines.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. They saw the onboard, his wheel was straight.
Yeah, he just followed the pit lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it looked like a really uneventful race. But actually the level of concentration that Max must have had to get every single corner right for 57 laps. Never once dip a wheel onto the gravel. Never once ride a curb too much. Never once lock up and slide wide. For 57 laps.
And just consistency.
Yeah. And all the time his tyres are degrading, his fuel levels going down, the track temperature's changing, and he's just like, nope, every lap, just bang it in.
Yeah.
And you know what was also really weird? I mean, I was not half asleep, but it was early in the morning. All 20 cars finished.
Yeah.
There were no mechanical breakdowns, no accidents.
There was not even a yellow flag all weekend.
I don't remember a yellow flag, or a virtual safety car, or a safety car, or a red flag.
There was basically nothing at all of any interest.
Even Lance Stroll was lapped, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, Lance Stroll pitted early. The softs were rubbish, and then he was just last the entire race. He didn't get any... Well, I mean, he didn't get any even opportunity to bunch up, because the safety car would have kind of saved him a bit.
Yeah.
It's got to be quite depressing to think there's going to be a safety car soon, and then the engineer says this is the last lap, and you're still 20 seconds off P19.
Yeah. I mean, I think also that was like... I think Lewis Hamilton's race strategy was go long, wait for safety car.
Yeah, because there were points where he was like second or third on hards. Yeah. Even if there had been a red flag, he could have changed tyres and done a no-stop and probably could have held on to it.
The top 10 finished as the top 10. The top 10 starting grid finished. The only change in the entire top 10 was that Lewis Hamilton legitimately overtook Isaac Hadjar to swap 7th and 8th over.
Wow. A Ferrari overtook a Racing Bulls.
Yeah. And that was it. The rest of the top 10 finished in the order they started on the grid. It was like...
The top 6 finished in the same order, yeah.
And the only difference between the starting grid and the finish was 7th and 8th swapped.
The only other time that's happened was Monaco last year.
Which wasn't really a race, to be honest.
Because they had a red flag early on and they all swapped tyres.
Yeah.
And having run 2 different compounds, which is what the rule says, then nobody stopped.
And then they all tried to drive basically as slowly as possible to make the tyres last.
There was one other race where that happened. The top 10 across the line finished as the top 10.
Yeah.
Spa 2021.
Well, that, as we said, wasn't really a race.
Yeah. Neither of them were really races. So this was a race that was as interesting as Monaco / a race that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it kind of was interesting because...
It was, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks at the time because McLaren did what you thought they would do, or should have done, because they had 2 drivers in the top 3, so they pitted Piastri early to try and undercut Max Verstappen. I'm looking at the pit stops.
Yep.
So Oscar pitted on lap 20. I think, George Russell pulled the trigger on lap 19. So then they pitted Piastri on lap 20. But then Verstappen went in on lap 21, and bizarrely, at the time, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc all followed in for 3 cars in the pits at once.
Yeah, I did see that. That was weird.
And they did say, the normal thing to do is to say, do the opposite.
Yeah, pit opposite. What's his face? Yeah, whoever.
Verstappen.
Yeah.
But Andre Stella said they saw George Russell come out on hards 2 laps earlier. Basically, Russell was immediately up to speed on the hard tyre.
Yeah.
So they knew then that if Russell pitted on lap 21, there's no way on 21 lap old mediums, even with clean air in front of him, that Lando Norris would be able to gain probably 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
In a couple of laps.
No.
That's why they pitted them together.
Yeah.
And as you've said, they made up the time because Red Bull had a slow pit stop and McLaren had a fast one. But it was just about, I think... I can't remember how it worked out, but they just about had it so it wasn't an unsafe release by McLaren to get Norris out alongside Verstappen.
I think it has to do with the width of the fast lane.
Yeah.
Because that's... McLaren are at the end because they won. Which is weird. I thought it was the other way round.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I remember Sakir 2020, the whole shenanigans with Mercedes, and they were up at the close end, I thought.
I think it might vary from track to track.
I don't know. Maybe they changed it.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
It does seem a bit strange, but...
I suppose they have to go less distance on their new tyres.
Yeah.
Which really, it
it's
shouldn't
kind of
really
swings
matter.
and roundabouts, isn't it? Because if there's something like a safety car situation and everybody's piling in,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. If you're the last one, you might get caught in a traffic jam as everybody else behind you is coming out first.
But you might get caught in that traffic jam because people will come in behind you.
Yeah, but then
there's always going to be...
When the last one of the other 9 stack in, you can just pop out and block all them.
Yeah.
I think there's no easy answer, to be honest.
No.
And again, like we said about Carlos Sainz, all we saw all weekend was him straight lining the chicane.
Yeah.
He just was not a happy bunny.
Well, is he still running the old car?
I thought this was his first race on the new chassis.
I didn't hear anything about it. But yeah, he's not quite up to Albon's speed yet in the Williams.
No.
Which I think legitimizes Albon a lot. Because Sainz kind of had the measure of Leclerc in some races.
Yeah.
And everyone was like...
the overall championship winning
not quite.
consistency.
But people were like, is Albon actually that good? Or has he only been up against, with the best will in the world, Latifi and Sargent?
And then Colapinto.
Yeah. Which
But,
also, Colapinto was also good. Because
weirdly, they called... Sorry, yeah.
Because he was sort of level with Albon, or he certainly brought it to Albon a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a weird kind of chain of like, who's a good driver? But yeah.
I've just realised they called George Russell Mr. Saturday because he's so good at qualifying.
They called him that back when he was in a Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he used to get it up into like Q2 or 3 before he ever got points.
I think Albon has been out-qualified like single-digit number of times in his whole career.
Probably most of that was when he was with, Maximum.
Yeah.
Back in the Red Bull.
Yeah.
Did he whitewashed Sargent, didn't he, in qualifying?
Yes.
I don't know if he whitewashed Latifi.
Probably.
And he's not been beaten by... I think, did he get done by Colapinto?
I think he might have got done on grid penalties, but not actually head-to-head.
I don't know.
Like that. But yeah, it was partly it was a nothing race, partly it was a masterclass from Verstappen.
Yeah.
Also, Kimi Antonelli.
Mm-hmm.
He pitted 1 lap after Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
And his tyres weren't going off.
Yeah.
And
he was on mediums.
He started on mediums.
When did Hamilton pit? He must have pitted a lot earlier than he should have done.
He pitted about lap 30 to give a 27 lap run on...
Yeah, lap 30. On the mediums.
To the end, which apparently also Andre Stella said that degradation was much less, so the undercut wouldn't work.
Yeah. Oh, Stroll pitted twice for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird sort of like... Well, overtaking was hard, because following was hard, and the undercut didn't work. So it was like, in a way, there was almost no point doing the race. It was just a qualifying... Well, like you said, it was literally the top 10 apart from 7th and 8th were the same.
Yeah.
There was no way for anyone to make progress.
Yeah, and nobody made any mistakes, which I'm not being funny, but I find that kind of weird.
It is weird.
I mean, you'd either get normally an unforced error where somebody slides off and bounces over the gravel, or a touch.
Well, we had some chicanery, as it were.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, the first 2 races... What even happened in Australia? It was like raining.
Australia was a wet, dry race, so it was absolute carnage.
What was the next one? China was exciting. Well, yeah, because it was like Piastri and Norris.
Also, I can tell you for a start, Leclerc lost his front wing and made the car faster before he got disqualified.
Yeah.
So
there was a whole thing. And there was quite a lot of good battling at the back as well.
Yeah.
But this race was like nothing happened. The only thing that really happened was the whole pit lane thing.
Yeah.
But then even then there was no investigation, so it didn't have any impact at all on the race.
And he didn't damage his underfloor or damage his tyres or anything. He kind of bounced over the...
I mean, it's the sort of race, it's like 3 laps from the end, you'd almost hope Norris would just absolutely send it down the inside and they'd bang wheels and it would be like drama all over the place.
Yeah.
But...
other stories, Lawson went back to 17th, Tsunoda went up to 12th, which, you know, they're making a big thing out of the fact that Lawson in the Racing Bulls out-qualified the second Red Bull by 1 place.
Yeah, well, I think, again, the fact that Tsunoda finished 12th in his first race in an RB and has now finished 12th in this race in a Red Bull. So it's basically exactly the same.
Yeah.
If both Tsunoda and Lawson, looking at their championship so far, you couldn't tell that they'd swapped.
No.
Because, like, Lawson, back of the grid, slightly less than the back of the grid.
Yeah.
Tsunoda's like
17th, I mean.
Tsunoda's like middle of the grid.
Yeah.
The whole time. So that second Red Bull is a dog still.
And Isaac Hadjar getting the Racing Bulls into the points.
Yeah. Isaac Hadjar is just good, though.
Yeah. You know what I realised that nobody really ever talks about?
What?
How is it legal for the holding company to own 2 teams and use them together?
Well, there have been questions, haven't there? Like a lot of questions, mostly from McLaren.
Yeah.
I think Zach Brown has basically always said, since he got into the role, shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
And there was the whole, like, do you remember when last year Daniel Ricciardo got the fastest lap?
Yeah.
And from, like, Norris in Singapore.
Mm.
And McLaren said that shouldn't be allowed. And then RB were like, oh, no, we're just giving it to him because it's his last race. Or something.
Which we haven't admitted.
Yeah. They were like, oh, we just, you know, you can't expect a driver not to go for the fastest lap, but they pitted him.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a bit dodgy.
And there was all that fuss when Haas were coming in, because there were rumours that Ferrari were using Haas, who weren't a team at the time.
They were testing.
To test Ferrari parts outside of the budget cap and the testing limitations. And that seemed to be dodgy, but everybody was complaining about it. But then you get like Red Bull and Racing Bulls, who, apart from a dark blue rear wing and dark blue under tray, had exactly the same liveries. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was really annoying.
I mean, yes, you want to celebrate Honda that you're going fully to Red Bull powertrains next year. But then Haas turned up with a like white and pink livery as well, and you're just like...
At least they had a bit of pink on there.
Yeah, I mean, Haas was quite obvious who they were.
Yeah, the Red Bull was like... Everybody likes the way the RB looks because it's pretty. We're just going to do that now.
Yeah. Well, perhaps Red Bull are trying to be more like Racing Bulls because they keep scoring points.
I saw people saying they were just trying to help Yuki feel more at home.
Yes.
And giving him a white Red Bull since he'd been in one the whole season. But it was just,
Actually, we had 3 rookies in the points. That's nice to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're desperately looking for things to say about this race. I think, shall we just wrap it up and look forward to Bahrain?
Yeah. The championship is very tight, though.
Oh, yeah, let's have a quick look at that.
1 point. Norris is on a streak of podiums, first, second. That's honestly pretty good.
He's 1 point ahead of Verstappen.
The only reason that Verstappen's that high is because Norris fluffed up the sprint in China.
Yeah, he got stuck behind Stroll, didn't he?
Yeah. So, that was weird.
And you see, again, Mercedes are just quietly not attracting any attention, holding second in the Constructors.
They're going to be a very lonely second or third in the Constructors, I think.
I think, well, Red Bull are only...
It depends
Red Bull
where...
are 14 behind. That's not much in Constructors.
Yeah, the Constructors, it'll be whether or not they can get Tsunoda settled into the Red Bull. Because if he starts putting in, not even Verstappen-like performances, but like, you know, on a level with Antonelli and Russell, then Red Bull should run away with second in the Constructors.
Or maybe even challenge first.
but then that leaves Mercedes sort of vaguely fighting with Ferrari, who are mostly trying not to be rubbish and failing.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton now just has Albon only 3 points ahead of him to join the top 7. Because there isn't really an effective second Red Bull driver yet.
But also, like, Hamilton's only got 15 points after 3 races, and most of those are from a sprint.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hamilton has said, and I think he's right, he said that, there were no expectations on this season. It's the one before the reg change. He's settling into a whole new team and a whole new culture. He never expected to turn up and win races. And obviously he's a racing driver, that's what he wants, but he's not...
He knows there's work to be done first.
And it does seem like the Ferrari is probably looking at the constructors. Yeah, of all the constructors, I think Ferrari's going to be a lonely fourth unless they bring some upgrades.
But then, how are they so fast in China? In the sprint?
I think it's down to this very narrow window we keep talking about with the tyres.
Because if they can get it into the window...
Yeah.
And we've seen upgrades have actually changed the complexion of a season quite a lot.
Yeah, but
so it's not over.
No, Ferrari are nearly double the points of Williams already. Yeah. And nearly half the points of a kind of Mercedes Red Bull area, so...
Well, it's like I said, I'm waiting 6 races.
Yeah.
But you've also said this is the most representative track.
Yeah.
So if we take that, it's going to be McLaren versus Verstappen for the championship.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, because that sounds like quite a laugh.
Yeah. It's going to be a Verstappen-Norris Piastri championship fight. Both
Russell's only 4 points
drivers
off.
Happily scrapping over,
4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Although Russell's doing quite well, quietly. He's 3rd, and he's 4th in the championship, but he's only 4 points off Piastri.
Yeah.
Oh, then Piastri had that bad weekend in Australia, so...
But there we go, you see Leclerc outscored Russell this time, so I think there's still some movement in the kind of Mercedes-Ferrari area behind that.
Yeah, I think the top, at the very least, Norris versus Verstappen the whole season. Yeah. Given what we saw last year, that's a given.
I would like to think that Piastri can find his feet and start to knock on the door.
Yeah. They are going to have to answer the question at some point.
I mean, he's only 13 points off the lead.
Yeah, that's one race.
That's one good win, while the other 2 maybe tangle and drop back or have bad qualifying.
We've seen that happen before.
Caught out by a safety car or...
I mean, imagine Austria last year, but it was Piastri in 3rd.
Yeah.
Who swoops through, which is really not unlikely. I mean, look what happened this race.
Yeah. So I don't think Piastri's out of it, and I'd like to see him actually move up, because I think given that he's younger and less experienced, I think he's doing really well.
Yeah, I think he's got it for sure.
So we're off to Bahrain next week. Actually, Toby and I will be in the same room, so...
Wow. Yeah, I have realised I haven't seen... I don't remember what the last race we watched together was.
No,
it would have been back in September.
Yeah, you were down at Christmas, but there were no races, so...
Yeah.
Well, that'll be nice anyway.
Yes. And then after that, it's Saudi.
Oh, okay then.
And then we get into a brief jet over to Miami, and then it's the European season for a bit.
Yeah.
And then Miami is when I can start making judgments, because that's the 6th race.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a big judging session after Miami.
Yep.
Okay then, I will talk to everybody in about a week, because we've got a triple header.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been Graham Miller. If you like a twisty, murdery, thrillery book, look up Graham H. Miller. If you like YouTubing and gaming, Official Tibby's doing really well. Check out Toby's channel.
Yep.
And we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Yeah, yep, thanks, bye.